So our first talk comes from Saj Ghafoor, the CEO of Multicultural Cumbria. Saj's mission is to bring communities together to celebrate who they are and preserve their identity, culture and heritage. Founder of the Cultural Bazaar since 2007, Saj is an honorary fellow of the University of Cumbria. Co-opted member of the main grants panel, Cumbria Community Foundation from 2010 to 2019, and is the CEO of the Multicultural Cumbria. In 2009 and 2017, Saj was nominated as a Cumbrian Woman of the Year and has been awarded Unsung Hero in 2018 by the Cumberland News Community Awards. Saj's mission is to bring communities together to celebrate who they are and preserve their culture and heritage. She has engaged in community since 2001, where she helped Brook Street School to do an after-school club magazine. She encouraged and supported the children to write in the magazine and interview people for articles. In 2005, Saj and her husband set up an Asian halal grocery business. It became a hub for many people from international diasporas and a source of information and connecting people. The conversations since then with people from all walks of life have shaped her passion to ensure that Cumbria is a vibrant and equitable county that is welcoming and enables people to share their similarities and celebrate their differences, to be proud of their heritage and identity through food, the arts, sports and social activities and events. This is when Saj started Asian Women's Group and thereafter just developed further to delivering 10 Cultural Bazaar events from 2007 to 2020, with a core group of trustees and volunteers to set up Multicultural Cumbria as a charitable incorporated organisation in 2017. Saj, over to you.
Thank you very much. I am amazing by the sounds of that. Welcome to everybody today. And today I really wanted to talk about the hierarchy of needs. Working and having a space at the University of Cumbria, according to our MOU and how we're working together to promote what we do, we really feel it's important. Collaboration is absolutely key. And I'm just going to ask Rich if he can share the presentation, which I have sent quite late on. So I'm just going to check whether he's been able to. Oh, you're a star, Rich. Yeah, I wanted to talk about hierarchy of needs. Now, I went back to college as a mother of four. And I did a HND in business and finance. One of the things that really sticks with me is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And they include 5 levels of basically what every individual needs in life. And you've got to go through the steps to be able to get to the next step and achieve what we want to do in life. And can we go to, I apologize for this, but can I go to the next slide? Yeah, thank you. So our basic needs are the physiological needs, and that's the basic survival: air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, reproduction. And I did think when I first started reading through this as to what this has to do with business in any shape or form. Really, it's just about a person and about life. But as it goes on, as life experience has taught me, it fits in really well with how we develop as a society. Next slide, please, Rich. So our needs is to make sure that we have our personal security, that we feel safe, that we've got a job, we've got income coming in to protect our families and look after them. We have the resources we need for ourselves as well as our families, whether that's in the workplace, in family life, etc. And our health's really important. If we haven't got that, then we've got a whole load of other struggles that come with that. And to have a home, to have a car, to have all the safe, secure things that we feel that we need to get on with daily life. Next slide. This is the bit that is really, really important. And sometimes it's actually hard to describe how important this is, because while we talk about the economy, while we talk about multiculturalism, at the end of the day, this level of the hierarchy is absolutely crucial. And if we don't deal with that, and we don't actually look at how we can develop these, then we stand in isolation. And if you imagine, we've been going through COVID, and that sense of isolation of not being able to go and see family, staying at home, not being able really to do even the basics of just having a cup of coffee with someone that you care about outside. That's our life sometimes for a lot of diasporas. Because the safest places to be is at home, sometimes at work, but not always. And the social interaction opportunities are almost non-existent if it's around our own culture and heritage. Friendship's really important. Having a relationship with your partners, your family, etc. It's all absolutely crucial, and everybody wants that for a happy life. Making sure your children are getting a good education, you have healthcare access, and that sense of connection to your community is so essential. And I know within the British society, again, people say that they don't necessarily know their neighbours anymore because society has changed. But imagine that being for someone whose heritage is from somewhere else around the world. They can't speak English properly, so they feel really self-conscious. And even if you're second generation like myself, the way we've been brought up is to say, my parents, for example, they said just go to school and come home because that's the safest place for you. We didn't learn to socialise, we didn't have many friends, and that's a skill I think right across the board we have to some extent lost, because I used to go into the playground when my children were growing up. And believe it or not, I was very, very quiet. I wasn't actually that chatty at all, because I just felt that friendships weren't going to go anywhere. And it was all around family. And as I got to know more people later and actually be more inquisitive and find out about my own roots, as well as what parents of my children's friends were, it was that realization that actually people just didn't know what to say, and they didn't even know how to say hello. And you would think that was easy enough to say, but then you got people just looking at you. And at that time, my mentality was that people were staring at me because I looked different, and maybe they were laughing at me, and maybe they were making fun of me when a group was together and laughing. And if one even turned to me, I would think they were talking about me, which brought my self-esteem right down. And it took a long time and many years before I changed that mentality to think they're just looking at me and think what amazing clothes I've got on, and they wish they could wear what I was wearing. And again, it depends on your environment and what you have and what you want and what you need. And having that sense of belonging within the community that you live in is absolutely essential. But we don't have those opportunities. It sounds easy enough to do, but actually people don't ask. They didn't ask me, they didn't talk to me because they thought they might offend me if they said the wrong thing. And when there's so much in the media about having to adapt and political correctness, I think what was meant to protect has gone the other way, where it seems to be the barrier now. And for us, what we do at Multicultural Cumbria is just to ask. We know when it's malicious, we know when it's not. And curiosity is that step to actually building those sense of connection, as well as starting to build that sense of belonging within the community. A smile goes a long way. And the amount of times I've heard people say, I lost my smile within 6 months because I used to smile at people in the street and they just give me a funny look. And eventually I just stopped smiling because that smile wasn't reciprocal. So there's something everybody can actually do, and that's just try and smile at people. And you know what? They might ignore you once, twice, 3 times, but slowly they'll sort of think, well, what's a smile back? It doesn't cost anything, but it's priceless to the receiver. And as a giver, it makes me feel good as well. So how do we start looking at having that sense of belonging? It's a two-way thing. It's not something that one can do and the other just says, yeah, I'm on board. You have to come halfway. You have to be willing to put your head above the parapet and say, this is my culture, this is my heritage. I'm still British. It doesn't mean that I'm not a part of the wider British community, but I love being me. I love dressing up. I love celebrating our Eid festivals. I love inviting my friends who are non-Muslims and my neighbours and saying, do you know what, I made some pakoras, I made some samosas, just come and join us and let's have a chat and just see. And the fascination on people's faces, it blows my mind, because if people don't, the wider community don't have the opportunity to come to that centre point and to experience it. It's one thing reading about it, it's another thing just watching it on TV, but to be in that environment and actually see the diversity for yourself, because people constantly say we're not diverse in Cumbria. 70 languages and plus spoken in Cumbrian schools. I would say we're quite diverse. But where can we find them all? Well, that's the hard bit, because we don't have a multicultural centre or a space. And a multicultural centre doesn't mean that it segregates people. It's just for diasporas. It's something we do together, and it has to be a collaborative approach with the communities themselves, because they are the ones that need to feel empowered to actually be able to engage and enable themselves, where they feel that environment is safe and they're not going to get laughed at, they're not going to be mocked. And I think over the last 10, 15 years, there's been a distinct change in that approach. And when we opened our business in 2005, I didn't know how diverse Cumbria was. And once they got their basic needs of finding food, which is why they were at our shop, it became a multicultural hub. And what we found was that the idea that Cumbria is perhaps racist, there is elements everywhere. But how do we change that? How do diasporas change that? And it wasn't actually just diasporas. Cumbria is quite a rural and territorial county. And what we found was that some of the experience that we had, different though they may be, people from Birmingham and London and Liverpool were feeling the same sense of isolation and lack of acceptance in the county. And that was quite a change of mindset for me, because some of them were saying we'd been here 20 years and we think finally we might have cracked it. I think the community is actually accepting us now. And that really helps to understand that as humans, we all have a need to be able to have that sense of belonging and be able to come together. So food, music, arts, dance, all these activities are tools to pull us together. And if we don't deal with the opportunities to try and bring us together, that sense of belonging just is so much harder to develop. And it is 50-50 to me. We've all got to put something in to get something out. Next slide, Rich. The next step, which is where the love and belonging aspect comes in, is once we've achieved that and we feel that we are part of the community, you get to the next level where you want to have respect and give respect. You want to have a status within the communities, and you want to be recognised for what you bring. Quite often the perception is that when diasporas are here, it's all about either them taking your jobs or them not being able to speak English, not integrating. Actually, where's the opportunities to be able to do that? Because that's exactly what most of them do want to do. But while over the years we've got a lot of nods and saying, yes, we understand that, nothing gets done. And which is why it's so key that we are here at the University of Cumbria with our Memorandum of Understanding. We are independent. We do what we want, how we want, with our focus, but our focus and our way of working aligns so well with the University of Cumbria. And it still took me 10 years from when I became an honorary fellow in 2009 to when we actually started working with the uni. But I'm a patient person, and I really do believe that if you stay focused, you do get to the end point. And to have that similar alignment of beliefs and values is absolutely key to how we work. We don't get told what to do. We are not restricted in any way, and we are independent. And it's fantastic having the University of Cumbria support what we do, not just in words, but in practical terms. We have the use of the space as well, and we are bringing the community in. And it's just made such an incredible difference. And it's something that we're going to work more on and be able to develop more so that we can look at how we build self-esteem within ethnic minorities and do it in a way that they are actually inputting into society. They have the opportunity to do that. It's not that they didn't want to before. It's just they didn't know where to go, what to do, how to do it. And Multicultural Cumbria is a delivery organisation. So this is what we love to do, and bringing people together. And quite often we're told it's not in the remit of organisations, of district council, county councils, but this is actually the missing link. This is how you connect with ethnic minorities, by being able to bring them all together. So I'm going to have to rush a bit. So Rich, next slide. That's where you start beginning to feel comfortable with who you are and what you want to do. For me, my journey has been about first just having that sense of belonging, bringing up my children to understand what Islam is about, but also to be able to go out in society and be able to share who they are without compromising their faith and their beliefs, but being a total part of the wider community as well. And self-actualization for me has been, I've got to that point. It's been really hard work, and I want it to be a lot easier for other people to be able to get to this point. And by working together in collaboration is what we what needs to develop. So there needs to be investment in the social integration and the social opportunities to come together. It's not just a party, believe me. The amount of volunteers we have had from professionals from different diasporas has been at a social event, the African Forum, Eid events, Diwali events, and connecting with the NHS, with the police and various other statutory bodies who have not really been able to engage in the way that they want to engage. So this investment's really, really key, and I'm very fortunate to be in the position I am in now, but it's taken best part of 20 years to be there. I need more of me's out there. We need community champions from all different backgrounds and heritages, because that's when our children see how diverse Cumbria is as well, and they have a sense of pride of who they are, of their own identity, and that they know they have something extra that is needed in Cumbria to be a part of an amazing Cumbria. And it is a beautiful place, but the social aspect of trying to retain people, retaining young people, and engaging more with ethnic minorities on professional levels in the economy. There's a social life that we have to live as well. We need those restaurants. We need the diversity of arts. We want to be able to go out and watch a Bollywood movie. And you find on those social levels is when you start connecting with the community and think, well, I didn't think they would be interested in this, or they would be interested. That's where that sense of belonging starts to appear. And when you get to the top level, it's about making sure everybody has that opportunity. If I'm lucky enough to be able to do that now, then that's all I want. We want a community centre for the whole community, but it's focused, like the youth zone is, on a specific area. And I know I've still got time. Sorry. Next slide. Now, this is something that happened a few years ago, and this was an Islamic group who came to Carlisle city centre, and they had a stall near the memorial, and they were handing out English translations of the Quran, so people could make their own judgments on what Islam was really about. And as you can read, some of the comments here are really offensive. The one difference that I found compared to maybe even 5 years ago, 5 years previous to this, was when we'd seen other racist remarks, quite often the majority of them would all be negative. But when I was looking through these, actually it was about 40% was actually positive, where people were standing up and saying, do you know what, that's just totally unacceptable. This type of language is unacceptable. Your perceptions are wrong. And that showed that things are changing. This is not acceptable by any means. I don't think this was ever taken up as a complaint. But it's important to realise change doesn't happen overnight, and it does happen gradually. Rich, can you do the next page? Now, I don't know how you feel about this, but for us, having allies is absolutely essential to society. And in the past, what's happened very often is that when there has been racial abuse, people have stayed quiet. What we need everybody to do is actually say, this is unacceptable, to be able to voice that without feeling that they have to tolerate this. So I don't like using the terms of colour as in black, brown, white, because I think that divides us as again. But if we look at the wider white community, I know I would not be here doing what I do if I didn't have those allies and that support and that belief that this sort of language, behaviour, prejudice was acceptable. So that we are all in it together and we can change this. We are changing this. And can you just go to the next slide? I'm just going to read a letter. I was just clearing out, well, sorting out some of my drawers, and I found a letter. This was sent through to my shop in 2006. It was anonymous, but it's something we heard regularly, and we still do. It starts first, the fact that your group is called an Asian group and probably has Asian names says everything about your desire to integrate and become English. We don't want multiculturalism. We don't want ethnic diversity. All it means to the English is that you are not prepared to integrate. We want an English country with English traditions. It's not for the indigenous population to accept your culture. It is for your culture to become British. English first. You live here now. We want English festivals and English traditions and our country put first. We also want an English parliament. We are fed up with your Asian rights in our country. Why are you here? If you don't intend to become English, understand why you are here. You are, by your Asianness, offensive to the English. You are not mixing. You have not dumped your stupid caste system. You are doing nothing to integrate. You might as well live in India or Pakistan or wherever. If people become terrorists, it is because they have no British identity. Your children don't get one. You live as if you have never left your precious country. Why are you here? You should be in mixed groups and learn English traditions and dances and how to cook and support English traditional dishes. We are tired of tourists who say they are British while wearing a sari or covering their faces. It is offensive. When do you intend to mix and become British, English, or whatever? When you get a British passport, you agree to bring your children up to be British, English. When does our country come first? When do your children have English, British names? When do you integrate into our culture? This is England, not Asia. Indian restaurants should employ British cooks and waiters. You live here now. We don't want cheap labour and illegals brought from Bangladesh or wherever else used to think you would integrate. But now, I think Asians lie to get a passport. We don't need tourists in our country from Asia. We need British people who put our country and culture first. We don't want your Asian arranged marriages and your Asian names and your Asian traditions and your Asian bias groups and your Asian only jobs for Asians. You should support our country and our people. Otherwise, oh, I missed a page. The description from the start was my mother came from another culture, but can cook English food, gave us English names and brought us up to be English first. I hate ethnic diversity and multiculturalism. It is just an excuse for you to offend the English by your dress, your culture and your Asianness. Why do you only have an Asian group? Why isn't a British group? Or at least multicultural to include the English of all the other nationalities living here, including white nationalities? Why aren't you learning English? This is England, not India, Pakistan, or wherever. You should visit an Asian country and participate in Asian culture, not bring the country you left with you. When you intend to become, and your families, including children, intend to become English British first, you presumably have a British passport, not a Pakistani British passport. I could go on, but you get the gist. As far as I know, you don't get an English British passport or a Welsh British passport either. And I think that was really important to actually say it still hurts today, but it is the reason why we do what we do, because we have to change that mentality where ignorance does not lead to racism and prejudice. And I do believe there is more ignorance than prejudice, and we have to work together to be able to break down those barriers, misconceptions, and to be able to be a county, a country, a world that is tolerant and understanding. Because I'll tell you what, I love getting dressed up. I love the food that we do. A lot of my friends have come together because I have bribed them with food. I have bribed the university with pakoras and samosas in the hallways and brought them in, because at the end of the day, our basic needs are all the same. We want to belong. We want to be in an environment that we feel safe in. And while we have people that think like this, we probably have thousands that don't. And that is what we cling on to, knowing that we can work together, and there are amazing people in Cumbria. So together we can make this happen, and we are making this happen. So thank you very much.